All right, y'all, what's up, man? Sean G here. Uh, Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. Do me a favor and go and follow me on my Instagram channel. Same name, the podcast with soul. So, you see the title of the video about Tammy Cowins, Big Meech, Cuffy, Suarez, the whole thing in the sworn affidavit, right? So, once again, let me tell you, everything that I'm coming from, all that I'm speaking from, is from this motion to suppress the wiretap evidence, right? Filed by Cuffy. So, I want to talk about Tammy Cowins, right? Because a lot of people are saying that her lies, which is true, she does eventually begin to recant her story and begin to outright lie about relevant matters in the case. Okay? But this is later on. This is around 2015, right? So in the initial sworn affidavit signed by Tammy Cowins, right? And the penalty for lying on a sworn affidavit could be fines, imprisonment. So there's a penalty for it, right? This is not nothing you can take lightly. So let's bear that in mind. Let's keep that in mind, right? So in the sworn affidavit that allowed the DEA out of St. Louis to get wiretaps or get the approval to have electronic surveillance of Cuffy, there was a sworn affidavit signed by Tammy Cowins, right? And in this sworn affidavit and in this surveillance of Cuffy, they were allowed to use tracking devices, tap cell phones, pull his trash pulls, they called it, GPS locator, everything, right? Now, this is key. This is the question that I have, right? This is where I can't, this is where I have an issue with this whole thing with Tammy Cowins and, you know, a lot of people saying that, Big Meech, Tammy Cowins was doing all of this unbeknownst to Demetrius Flannery, or as he's known, Big Meech. Now, in the sworn affidavit that Tammy Cowins signs, she expressly states that Demetrius Flannery, Big Meech, put her in contact with Fidel Suarez out of California and Dion Gatlin, who is Cuffy out of St. Louis, to arrange a large sale of cocaine. This is in the sworn affidavit in 2009, I think. Or this is, when is this? No. Bad information. 2012. Okay? So my question is, Tammy Cowins at this point is based out of Atlanta. How does she know? How could she possibly know about a drug deal between a Mexican nigga from California and a nigga from St. Louis? Right? How could that? And she's based in Atlanta. Right? How could she possibly know that? How could she possibly know that them two individuals were going to do a drug deal? And she's in a whole nother state, a whole nother region of the country. So y'all may say, and some people may say, well, was Fidel Suarez hot or a confidential informant? Or was Cuffy hot or a confidential informant? Now, if that's the case, if either Cuffy is already hot, or a DEA informant, or Fidel Suarez is already hot and he's a DEA informant, then why would they wouldn't need Tammy Cowins to get involved, because one of them is hot trying to set up the other one. It's two of them. There would be no need for her if either one of them was hot and they were going to get the other one to do a deal. You follow what I'm saying? So that's critical. That's critical. Right? That's critical. Now, everybody has been attacking Tammy Cowins' integrity. And her integrity is trash. It's in the dipsy dumpster, it's in the basement, it's in the trash can. But this really comes to light and jumps to the forefront later on down the line in 2015. But at this point, Tammy Cowins is under her controlling agent, which is Special Agent Jack Harvey. Right? Special Agent Jack Harvey. Now, it says Tammy became a paid confidential informant in 2009, right? Where this became her occupation, right? And in this document, I'm going to put the link underneath this video. The link is under the two other videos I've done, and I'm also going to put it in the comments section. Don't come at me. I don't have an opinion of this thing either way, right? I don't know Meech. I don't know Cuffy. I don't know Jack Harvey. I don't know Tammy Cowins. I don't care, right? I'm coming purely from court documents. Now, she becomes a paid DEA informant in around 2009, right? And in this document, it says that her role was to pick up drugs, pick up money, and make phone calls as an informant in investigations of other hustlers, right? To get people indicted. And how she became an informant is pretty interesting. There was a gentleman there was a gentleman in Atlanta by the name of Terry White who got busted in Atlanta on a weed case, a big weed case. And I don't know the specifics. I've done a little research, but it's off of YouTube. So I don't really, it's one of those YouTube channels where it's an invisible person talking. They're talking in the background, but they're showing all these clips like a meme. And he's, so I don't really put a whole lot of stock in that. But I pulled up Terry White's case and I'm reading it now. And what's interesting, Big Meech is mentioned in Terry White's case. I'll come back to that. Terry White gets busted, indicted, and convicted on a weed case and gets sentenced to 120 months in federal prison. Tammy Cowins, according to Jack Harvey, and I'm going to read it to you, was the heart and soul of the case of helping the feds, the DEA, indict and convict Terry White. And even Jack Harvey mentions in here, and I'm going to read it to you, that Tammy Cowins was not the typical informant, or she didn't have the typical circumstance that informants typically become informants, right? She didn't have a case. She wasn't a drug user. I'm going to read it. It's in here. She wasn't already in jail trying to give information to get out. She didn't have no charges trying to work off time. She wasn't a drug user giving information for money and drugs. She cooperated against Terry White for whatever reason. I don't know. But to speculate or to guess or to hypothesize based on the YouTube video I watched last night, and don't quote me as this being factual, this is pure YouTube, and you take that for what it's worth, no paperwork. Her and Terry White had a romantic situation going on, and Terry White had a main lady, and Tammy Cowins was the side piece. And I think Tammy Cowins wanted to be more, and he was like, nah, and he was dissing her. So she was a jilted lover. And in her anger and frustration and love of Terry White and her inability to get him to commit to her, she jammed him up with what she knew. And as it states in here, when it was all said and done, Terry White was indicted, convicted, pled guilty, and had forfeitures and seizures of property, cars, and money. At the end of the day, Tammy Cowins gets paid $55,000 for her actionable information in the indictment, arrest, and conviction of Terry White. And after this case, she says she becomes a full-blown DEA informant, paid on a monthly basis. It says that all in here. Read it yourself. Don't take it from me. Now, what's interesting is I pulled up Terry White's case, and I got to read it. I'm going to do another video on that. Meech's name is mentioned in there. Okay? So, let's read what Agent Jack Harvey, who was her controlling agent before he retired in 2011, has to say about Tammy Cowins and her reliability and her trustworthiness when it comes to being a snitch, being a rat, giving information on felonious behavior. Now, keep in mind, Keep this question on the forefront of your mind. How does she know? She's in Atlanta. How does she know about a drug deal going down between a Mexican from California and a brother from St. Louis? Let's see what Jack Harvey has to say. So, first, let me read the affidavit All right, so here we go. Here we go. Okay, this is the second bullet point. The first bullet point of the affidavit just talks about what formed the basis of them being able to get the wiretap to tap Cuffy's phone. Okay, now, here is the critical part. And like I told you, this is a sworn affidavit where if you lie on a sworn affidavit, the penalties, it's called perjury, the penalties are fines or imprisonment. So I don't know if she could have been imprisoned for lying on a sworn affidavit as an informant. I don't know. But let's keep this in mind. She just cooperated against Terry White, right? And did a fantastic job. This is her first time ever doing it, as far as we know here. And she received $55,000, and everything that she said against Terry White checked out. Check, 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 check. No lies. Everything right and exact. Second, the affidavit asserted facts relating to both CS1's, which is Tammy Cowins, reliability as an informant, and measures the DEA St. Louis investigators took to corroborate information provided by Tammy Cowins. As to Tammy Cowins' reliability, the affidavit attested that Tammy Cowins was cooperating with the DEA for monetary gain, quote unquote, and quote unquote, had been shown to provide reliable information to the Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA, regarding a multitude of felonious activity, and had provided information that resulted in the arrest of at least one individual and the seizure of drugs and U.S. currency. As for corroboration by the DEA in St. Louis, the affidavit asserted that DEA St. Louis investigators corroborated information from Tammy Cowins by using toll analysis of devices used by Tammy Cowins, Gatlin, and Suarez on August the 5th, 2012. This is in the affidavit. Now, this is what Jack Harvey has to say about Tammy Cowins. This is in the motion to suppress hearing, the evidentiary hearing. Remember on the second video, Cuffy filed the motion to suppress, right? The Frank's hearing. So Cuffy's attorney gets to cross-examine witnesses, agents, whatever. They both get to do that. So, check this out. This is in the paperwork. Tammy Cowins first became a confidential informant for DEA Atlanta in 2009, right? This is when she starts busting Terry White's head to the white meat. When she provided information in a money laundering case which resulted in the successful prosecution and conviction of individual named Terry White. Although CS1, Tammy Cowins, was not initially a paid DEA informant, Tammy Cowins' controlling agent, Agent Jack Harvey, put Tammy Cowins in for an award that would be a percentage of the value of property forfeited by White because information provided by Tammy Cowins was so beneficial that the DEA made seizures from White. Now, here is the subsection. This is where it gets good. According to Jack Harvey, Tammy Cowins was the heart and soul of the Terry White case. Agent Harvey testified that Tammy Cowins was an unusual informant in that she had no criminal record, was not a known drug user, did not appear to be motivated by money, and was not looking to get a reduced prison sentence or dismissal of criminal charges. Rather, Tammy Cowins appeared to be motivated to make up for the fact that Terry White had used Tammy Cowins to unwittingly launder drug money. Tammy Cowins provided significant information during the investigation of the case, which was used in various search warrants. The investigation, which started in 2008, culminated with an arrest in 2009, and White was convicted and sentenced in 2011. Tammy Cowins eventually received an award of approximately $55,000 for the Terry White case. So, these are the facts. This is not me. These are the facts. The link is above. Jack Harvey retires in 2011. And then Tammy Cowins gets handed over to a gentleman by the name of Keith Cromer, which is the one she had the illicit, inappropriate sexual relationship with while investigating Cuffy, Suarez, that thing. Although the precise scope of Tammy Cowins' duties after Agent Harvey's retirement is not entirely clear, Tammy Cowins testified credibly that she was paid on a monthly basis for things like picking up money or drugs and or making phone calls in drug investigations. According to the testimony of Agent Cromer, Tammy was paid on a monthly basis for providing quote-unquote actionable information that could lead investigators to a drug source of supply in ongoing long-term drug investigations. For example, according to Agent Cromer, information from Tammy Cowins that Fidel Suarez, a California-based Mexican national known to law enforcement to be a suspected drug distributor, or Gatlin or Cuffy were conspiring to engage in drug trafficking activity was the sort of actionable information for which Tammy Cowins might receive payment. That's key. That's key. Now, this is another interesting part. This is in the paperwork. This is page 11. Tammy Cowins' relationship with Big Meech, Suarez, and Gatlin. When Tammy Cowins became a DEA informant, she had been a longtime friend and associate of Demetrius Flannery, Big Meech. Tammy Cowins held Flannery's power of attorney and life rights with creative control. the right to tell and presumably sell Big Meech's life story for profit. Those rights, by Tammy Cowins' estimation, could be worth as much as $1 million. Here's the thing. This is the key. CSI Tammy Cowins testified that Flannery, Big Meech, was well known, and it was not at all unusual for Tammy Cowins to receive calls from total strangers asking about Flannery. It was due to Tammy Cowins' relationship with Flannery that Tammy Cowins first came in contact with both Fidel Suarez and Dion Gatlin, Cuffy. It was due to Tammy Cowins' relationship with Big Meech that Tammy Cowins first came in contact with both Suarez and Cuffy. In September 2011, Big Meech requested Tammy Cowins' help in coordinating delivery of a load of cocaine to be controlled by Suarez, who at that point was already in contact with Tammy Cowins. There's another paragraph, and then here's another one. At some point, Big Meech asked Tammy Cowins to connect Gatlin and Suarez. At some point, Big Meech asked Tammy Cowins to connect Cuffy and Suarez, and the relationship between Tammy Cowins, Cuffy, and Suarez turned to narcotics. So, this is the paperwork, y'all. This is the court documents. Now, what happens is this. As this case is progressing, and this is all public information. Anybody in the world could look this up. This is public information. As this hearing is taking place, this motion to suppress, the federal government is documenting the case and making available on PACER. So I think people are seeing the information and they're able to ascertain that, this is Tammy doing this. This is Tammy Cowins. And in here it says that she has perceived threats, meaning in her mind, and has received threats for her safety and the safety of Big Meech. That's in here. It says it in here. This is when she drives to Louisiana. This is in 2015. To meet with Big Meech in Louisiana. She doesn't get the chance to meet with him. I guess he's in prison down there. I don't know. Because he's locked up at this time. And I think Big Meech gets locked up in 2005. So all of this happens while Big Meech is incarcerated. Terry White falls at the hands of Tammy Cowins. And this whole thing is going down with Tammy Cowins. And Big Meech's name is in the transcript of Terry White's case. I just haven't read it yet. She eventually speaks to Big Meech, and Big Meech tells her, and it's in here, quote unquote, I don't want my name caught up in this mess. Right? So this is what she does. After she speaks with Big Meech, and she's perceiving threats or receiving threats to her safety and Meech's safety, she comes back and emails. No. She comes back and she contacts Cuffy's attorney and says that a lot of what she said in the initial affidavit is factually incorrect. Now she wants to change her whole story and do another affidavit. Right? All of that's in here. Right? And then in this second affidavit, she says that Meech had nothing to do with putting her in contact with Suarez and Cuffy. Here it is. Here it is. Check this out. After she meets with Big Meech, now she comes back. Documents contained in the court's electronic docket in the case reflect that on March 18, 2015, former retained counsel or attorney for Cuffy advised the government via email that Tammy Cowins had contacted one of his associates. She contacted Cuffy's lawyers, among other things, contacted one of his associates claiming, among other things, that the wiretap affidavit was factually incorrect. Tammy Cowins also reportedly told the associate that the DEA in Atlanta, who was referenced in the affidavit, had been suspended or was under investigation. Right? This is in 2015, after she goes to meet with Big Meech. Right? What's up, Sean?
What's up?
So now she's changing her whole story. And this is what she does. Now, all while this time, her and Keith Cromer are having a sexual relationship, which Keith Cromer is way out of bounds. He way off his square. He way off his square by being romantically and sexually involved with an informant in the middle of an ongoing investigation, drug investigation. So she says, among other things, that no, Meech didn't have nothing to do with it. And then number two, she says that Keith Cromer, because he was jealous of her and Meech's relationship, that he told her to say that. You know what I'm saying? It gets crazy, man. So, you know, but Keith Cromer, the agent, ends up getting fired. He's being investigated. He ends up getting fired. And, you know, the whole case unravels. But I just wanted to make this video to really focus on Tammy Cowins and her solid trustworthiness and reliability as told by her controlling agent Jack Harvey at the outset of the case, where she specifically states that Meech put her in contact with Suarez and Cuffy. But then after she starts perceiving threats or receiving threats to her safety and Meech's safety, after meeting with Meech 3 years later, now the story has changed. And she's got an easy scapegoat to blame it on Cromer, because now he's fired, he's under investigation. So now nothing that he says is credible, you know, so she's blaming it on him that he put all that together. That was his idea, Keith Cromer's. So draw your own conclusion. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate y'all. Talk to y'all later. Sean J. Peace.